Hello guys, welcome to my channel. So today we're going to discuss about sensory examination. So first to know about what is sensation. So it is the ability of brain to recognize, interpret and use the sensory information. So what are the type of sensation? First one is the superficial, second one is the deep, third one is the cortical sensation. So first one is the superficial sensation. It consists of pain perception, temperature awareness, touch awareness and pressure perception. So in sensory grading system there is three grading. 0 is absent, 1 is impaired and 2 is normal, and 8 is means non-testable. So first we go for pain perception. So this test is determine the ability to perceive pain. So an examiner can use sharp and dull and to a dermatome to discrimination and indication function to protective sensation. So to test pain awareness, the sharp and dull-headed paperclip or septipin is used, and the instrument is carefully cleaned or sterilized before use. So the sharp and dull end is randomly applied perpendicular to a dermatome with the same pressure. So what is the response of the patient? So a patient is asked verbally to indicate sharp or dull end when stimulus felt. When you apply a sharp end, patient can say it's sharp, and when you apply dull end, and patient can say it dull. So how you can grading? So if you first test in a normal side, then compare with the abnormal side. If patient can't perceive the sensation sharpened and dulled, then patient having 0 grade, and patient have percept small amount of pain, and so small amount of dull, and also he can perceive, then he can perceive, then you can say it grade 1, and if perceive the same equal to the normal side, then it's grade 2. Then we go for temperature harness. This test is determine the ability to distinguish between warm and cool stimuli. So two test tubes is required in this test. One should be filled with warm water, another is filled with cold water. So the temperature of warm water is 40 to 45 degrees Celsius, and the temperature of cold water is 5 to 10 degrees Celsius. So the distal end of test tube should be placed contact with the skin. So the test tube randomly placed to the dermatome, and the response of the patient is the patient asks hot or cold after each stimulation. So you can place the test tube in the dermatome first in the normal side, then compare with the affected side, then grading according to if same sensation feel, then grade 2. If slightly low, then you can say it grade 1, and if not feeling any cold or hot sensation, then temperature awareness is grade 0. Then you go for next one is the touch awareness. So touch awareness, this is the test to determine or perception of the tactile touch input. You can use a camel hair brush, piece of cotton, and you can lightly stroke on the dermatome. So response of the patient is to ask, indicate when he or she can recognize the stimulus has been applied, and responding to yes or no. If you apply a light stroke, then he can say yes, and if you can't apply, then he can say no. Then you can count, or also he can count 1 2, you can touch, and he or she just count it. So if they do, then it's grade 2, and if it's lower than as compared to the normal side, then grade 1, and if not perceived, then it's grade 0. Then for pressure perception, the therapeutic or of pain dull end is applied to the firm pressure on the skin, of mainly in the palm surface or the dermatome surface, and the response of patient recognize the pressure and responding to yes or no, like previous examination. Then you go for the deep sensation. So what is deep sensation? So in deep sensation we have three major parts. First one is the kinesthetic sensation, second one is proprioception, and third one is vibration. So what is kinesthesia? Kinesthesia is the awareness of movement, and proprioception is the position sense or awareness of joint at rest, and vibration is the ability to perceive a vibratory stimuli. So for kinesthesia, the test examine awareness of movement. So the joint is moved passively through a relatively small range of motion, and therapists should identify the range of motion being examined, the initial range, mid range, or terminal range, and describe the direction of movement. Then, in the response, the patient asks verbally the direction of the range of motion. Like patient can say it moved from neutral to upward or move neutral to downward while extremity is in motion. Then we go for proprioception. So it is a position sense when joint at rest. This test is examine the joint position sense and the awareness of joint at rest. So the joint is moved through a range of motion and held in a static position. So range of motion should identify initial, mid or terminal edge. So response of the patient while joint is held in a static position by the therapist, the patient asked describe the position verbally. The joint is in neutral, up or down. How we can test? In the upper limb, we can test from the middle phalanx of the third metacarpal, or in lower limb we can test in the big toe. So therapist just place in between thumb and index finger the joint and move upward, downward and in neutral. For kinesthesia, patient can say it move from neutral to upward, neutral to downward. Where the movement occur, patient can say. But in proprioception, patient can say where joint is placed in rest, is up, in down or in neutral. Clear? Then we go for vibration. So vibration is the test require the we can require a tuning fork with 120 hertz vibration. Then the ability to perceive a vibratory stimuli is placed the base of the vibratory tuning fork on a bony prominence. So the tuning fork a base is held between the thumb and index finger. So what is the response? The patient is asked to respond by verbally to identify or otherwise indicating if stimulus is vibratory, non-vibratory. Each time tuning fork make contact. When tuning fork is contact with a bony point, patient can say it's vibratory or not vibratory and to compare with it in a normal side. Then we go for cortical sensation. So cortical sensation are mainly five type we can examine. First one is the stereognosis, second one is the barognosis, third one is the graphesthesia, two-point discrimination and double simultaneous stimuli. So first one is the stereognosis. So this is a test to determine the tactile objective recognition, means you can touch and say which object it is. Then the familiar objects are mainly used for the stereognosis, like with different shape and size, require mainly like a key, coin, comb, pin and pencil. A single object is placed in a hand of the patient and patient eye closed. Then patient manipulate the object and then identify the item verbally. So response of the patient is the patient asks the name of the subject verbally, and it compared with the normal side also. Then for diagnosis, the test is done for the recognition of the weight, a set of discrimination, and weight is consist small or large object. So object with the same size and shape object with different weight. Weight is vary, but the size and shape is same. The therapist place different weight in each hand simultaneously. Ask the patient to use a finger grip to pick up each object, and the response of the patient is patient response by indicating the therapist which object is heavier, which is lighter. And then we go for graphesthesia. So graphesthesia is a ability to recognize the letter, number, design, trace on the skin, examine the fingertip, end of the eraser or pencil, like a series of letter, number, design and traced in the palm of the patient hand. So you can just write 8, we can write A or design something and ask the patient which design you can do. So the response of the patient is asked to identify verbally the finger drawn on the skin. Then we go for the next one is the 2-point discrimination. So this test is determine the ability to perceive 2 points applied to the skin simultaneously. It measures by smallest distance between two stimuli. So response of the patient is to ask the identify the perception of 1 or 2 stimuli. So we can see the picture. So this test is done by a instrument is called aesthesiometer. Then the measurement is 2 mm to 5 mm is normal, 6 mm to 10 mm is fair, 11 mm to 15 mm is poor, 1 point perception is protective, no point perceive is anesthesia. Then you go for double simultaneous stimuli is the ability to perceive a simultaneous touch on the opposite side of body, proximal or distal on both extremity, or proximal or distal in the same extremity of the body, same side of the body. Then how patient responds? So patient verbally say when he or she can perceive the touch stimulus and the number of stimulus they can felt.